Hello and welcome to Warcraft Daily for today, the 16th of September 2013. So today's show might not be giantly long because I have a bit of a fucked up throat. So yeah, in today's news we have a whole bunch of blue tweets and more importantly the apparent 54% revenue decline of World of Warcraft, what that means, how the numbers came out that way, and things like that, so it should be pretty good. First thing we're going to talk about is of course the revenue decline because that's the big ass number. So this comes from a analytics firm called Super Data Research, which, I mean really, of all the names to call your company, I mean they're like, we do research, we do data, and it's super research data. Anyway, so yes, we did lose the 700,000 subscribers, and that was actually a little bit of a dip in terms of numbers because there was previous quarters where we had lost 1 million. But apparently in the last 7 months, revenue has declined by 54%. So what's interesting about this is that I'm not really sure how much we should take away from their numbers, because the graph that they show here, and I'll flip it up on the screen there, it says from September to April, so that would be from the MOP release through to April. Now the thing is, this is including like boxed copies and stuff like that, so I mean, of course box copy sales are going to be massive in September, and that's where the spike in the graph is. Everything else is just sort of flattened out after that, which it just sort of says to me, of course you're going to have way more, money in September and this sort of new expansion period, because that's when everyone buys the damn thing. Like the disclaimer says, includes digital, add-on, boxed, and microtransaction revenue. So yeah, of course the start of the expansion is going to be the bit where they make the most revenue, and towards the tail end of the expansion, especially they have here like March, April, well, Throne of Thunder for the non-raiders had kind of died off a little bit then, so March and April, more so April, are of course going to decline a little bit. So yeah, I mean these numbers are actually quite expected. I would have imagined personally that World of Warcraft would have quite a substantial fluctuation in terms of the numbers. I'd say it would definitely decrease quite a bit during the summer, the revenue, increase quite a bit on major patches because people resub, and increase giantly when there's a new expansion, because Blizzard always said that new patches and stuff are really good for getting sort of the current players to keep on subscribing. It's good for retention, and maybe the people who let their sub lapse for a month or two because they were bored, they'll come back, but to actually get back an old player and get those new boxed copy sales and all that stuff, it's new expansions that do it. So yeah, revenue drop of 54 from 200 and something million down to 94. This is based on their research data, so it's probably, there's probably a little bit of maybe 5% either way or something like that, but it's probably pretty much accurate, I'd imagine. So there you go. They did come to the conclusion that free-to-play definitely wasn't the answer for World of Warcraft at the minute, because it would require a ludicrously high amount of players to actually make what they make at the minute. Because the thing about free-to-play is it's pretty much based on the principle that the vast majority of people don't put a single penny into the game, but you have these people who buy so much stuff that they pretty much compensate for the people who freeload. And that conversion rate isn't fantastic, and that's why free-to-play games need such a gargantuan number of players to justify them being there. And that's why you often see a lot of free-to-play games, when they don't have a large a large player base, they just sort of shut down. Well, World of Warcraft is making $93 million, and in this period that they said here, that's still good money. It's still more than they would get via free-to-play, and free-to-play is, as the developer said in a recent interview, a risk because they can't guarantee the high retention and they can't guarantee the high conversion rate for microtransactions and that kind of thing. Also, they'd have to be selling off individual parts of the game like raids and all that shit, which would just be no fun. Because at the end of the day, like if they're constantly doing patches and stuff, then new raids and things like that, they're not covered by you just playing for free. They would need to be a purchasable thing, and I don't like the idea of that. So yeah, they did say the more microtransactions is business-wise a good thing. I'd say, the sheer business aspect, it absolutely is. It just makes sense, it's very high turnover, I'd imagine. Like if they can make a mount pretty quick, which they do seem to be able to do, by the way, make a mount, stick it in game, and make a lot of money off it, then I guess it is a way of having those people with lots and lots of extra money to be able to somewhat pay for the fact that the rest of us are not paying more than our sub fee a month. But anyway, it's interesting, and I don't really know how much we can take out of it, if I'm honest. Because, you know, as I said, it's a little bit of a skewed graph because the game did come out, and in the part, you know, Mists of Pandaria did come out in the part of the graph where the big spike is, so, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Anyway, that's it for this little section. Let's talk about blue tweets and stuff, because, well, I'm finding it hard to stay on topic, because, yeah, tired and cold. It's great. At least I can kind of, like, overdose myself in Lemsip, which is always a fun experience. Now, tweets. So, we have PvP and the future. Woohoo! So, for tweets, they say that they think PvP gear changes. The PvP gear changes in patch 5.3 proved a little bit too controversial and confusing than they initially thought. I definitely agree. Like, for me to even cover it in some of the older shows, it took a lot of reading and stuff like that. And, yeah, they didn't really communicate it well either because they were constantly chopping and changing and things. Their intent was to make gear matter a little bit less and make gearing a little bit more simple, just so that PvP would come down to where it should be, which is the skill of the player. I think any serious PvPer, the kind of people that PvP for the enjoyment of actually being really skilled at a game will agree with me there. It's not about having an unfair advantage because of your gear, because that means your skill doesn't matter, and your skill should always matter in a PvP situation. Now, honestly, I think they went a little bit too far in some of these changes. They made the difference between PvP gear and PvE gear a little bit too slim, especially because of the PvP power nerf, which meant that little sort of extra bonus in the PvP gear wasn't as well, you know, wasn't as big. I agree with their basic design intent though, and it does seem like they're making steps to fix all that stuff. And it was terrible the way PvP used to be, because if you wanted to get into it, you know, even if you bought the really crappy crafted gear, you'd still just get nuked to death by people in Tyrannical or something. So yeah, it's a good change in my opinion. So next up, let's talk about the future. They said that in the future they want to do more 5-mans than they did in Mists of Pandaria. This pretty much directly correlates with the fact that they're expanding their team by 40% next expansion. I would hope and probably fully expect that every major content patch, well, either that every major content patch will have a new solo zone like the Timeless Isles, a new raid, maybe new 5-mans, or that there will be new 5-mans every second patch, with a new raid every major patch, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, you know what? I think it's good. Now, about the power squish, they said that the power deltas at max level would be preserved if the item squish happens. Essentially, that just means that the sort of perceived increase in power in, you know, terms of you are now X% better than you were because of this new tier of gear will be preserved, because at the end of the day, the numbers are smaller, but in terms of, you know, this number being X% bigger than the previous one, they're still kind of the same. So, your upgrade to, say, from a 522 to a 553 will still be, you know, even if it's only an upgrade from a level 100 to a level 110 or 105, it's still significant because of the way the gear will work. And also that the squish will apparently buy them several expansions. I think it's very heartening that they do say several expansions, and that just seems to be the, you know, the dev team are pretty much, yeah, we're going for a whole bunch of expansions. A whole bunch of people have been going around forums saying, WoW is totally going to end once we hit level 100. That's bullshit. There's no way they're ending World of Warcraft, especially with with Titan being delayed. So that, they also said that they will not overpower old content so that you can still solo it, and that's one of the design requirements of the item squish. So everything will be pretty much reduced in numbers and a very, you know, it's all like a very relative scale, so you're still going to be relatively significantly more powerful than, say, a Burning Crusade boss. So that's good. Now, they also talked about shelving things, ETAs, stuff like that, and really it just boils down to the fact that when they shelve something, it's not like it's cancelled, never going to be there, like, say, StarCraft Ghosts. It's more a priority thing. There are higher priority things which will make a more positive impact to the game, so it's just a constant priority list, and it seems like they keep on working on the top of the list. And, you know, there's some things that are just so far down on that list that they're never really going to see the light of day unless, say, there's a 40% increase to the team size, which is happening, which maybe means they'll be able to get a little bit further down that priority list. Either that, or they're just going to be able to make us more 5-mans. Both would be fantastic. Now, other things, Hunter Quivers. This is a bit of a problem. Right now, hunters don't wear quivers, which is a little bit weird, considering we just sort of pull these arrows out of a magical space in the nether in our cloak, which is strange. They said they are a thing they want to do, but they have no ETA, which is great. And finally, they said that they want to put in audio sliders for voices, so there you go. It's like a whole new game once those audio sliders come in, I'm telling you. Anyway, I've actually ended up going for 10 minutes, which is a little bit ridiculous. So yeah, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe, all that kind of thing, and I'll see you next time.